All right, looks like we are live. Let me just make sure that we are live in the group. All right, I think I clicked everything I'm supposed to. All right, cool. Make sure that you can see me. Oh, let's see. All right, yeah, make sure that you can see me and hear me okay. Tonight is week number 4 of our training, Holiday Stress Survival Guide. If you have not yet gotten your survival guide yet, send me a private message, DM, whatever you want to call it. Send me a DM and I will send you a link after we're done to the survival guide so that you can get it. Once this live is over, I will take the link and I will share it in that guide as well so that you can add it into there. But again, this is week 4, so we've talked about a lot of different topics that are all related to dealing with the holidays and all the stuff that we have to, just deal with when it comes to ending an unhealthy relationship or, dealing with one or the aftermaths of one during the holiday season. So welcome to everybody. If this is your first time coming to on one of the lives, it is very nice to meet you. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. For those of you who come on every single week, we love seeing you and thank you for coming and showing your support. I think this is going to be really helpful for all of you. And the more that you comment, the more that I see comments, the better it is. I know I don't always see all of them. If this is on, and I'm on a few different streaming software here. So if I don't see it, I will go back and respond to anything that I don't see right away. That doesn't mean don't write any comments. Please still write comments. And again, you can always send me a DM if there's something that you want to make sure that you ask me, or tag me in a post. And that way I can see, or tag me in your comment to make sure that I see it. All right. So on that note, we are going to be talking about how to protect your kids during the holidays. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different things that are involved in here. So what I'm going to be really focusing on more is when we're talking about protecting your kids for the holidays, I want you to think about, if you're someone who has children currently that are still living home, think about your age group of kids. For some of these might be more examples of maybe 12 and younger. But if your kids are living home, then when I'm going through some of the things, think about things for yourself that are going to be related to your kids' age. And if they're out of the house, think about your kids' age range. I don't care if they are 20 to 40, still try to think about how you can navigate this with your kids of any age, because divorce and toxic relationships affects everybody that's involved in it. It's not like it stops affecting people because they are older or that they are oblivious to it because they're younger. So I really want to dive in today and talk about protecting your kids during the holidays. So if this is something that's going to be, you're excited about, comment, dive in the comments, and let's dive in to this training. So again, training number 4 of the Holiday Stress Survival Guide. Okay, so what is the deal? Well, the holidays are supposed to be magical. I mean, that's what we did, right? Is we made it to this thing, and we've created this time of year that is supposed to be magical. But if you are navigating the tension of a toxic dynamic, then creating happy memories for your kids can really start to feel overwhelming. So again, this time of year has already been made overwhelming by trying to get all the presents and getting the house to look just right and all that. And now if you're someone who's also in an unhealthy relationship, or you've ended one and now you're starting over, it can feel really overwhelming. So, and tell me how you're feeling with wherever you are right now. Some of the common concerns that we have is that we feel like we are failing to shield our kids from conflict or tension, where we want to protect them from it, but we feel like we're failing. So we might feel like we're failing in getting the things that they want. We might feel like we're failing from protecting them from the conflict, and that can feel really overwhelming. We might feel really exhausted because we are trying to create a perfect holiday while also managing our own emotions. So we have all of this space inside our brains that's trying to, think of all the things we can do to make it special, while also trying to worry about the kids and all the stress that's going on, maybe again, trying to protect them from whatever's going on at home or whatever's going on with a significant other or ex-significant other. And then of course, there's the other fear is that we're worried about how our kids are perceiving the situation. What are our kids thinking? So we're thinking, we're worried about what are they seeing? We don't really know fully what they're seeing because kids don't always tell us. They don't do the same things that adults do when they're stressed or overwhelmed. They tend to acclimate themselves to the situation, but acclimating to that situation is not always healthy. So we might not know that they're being negatively affected, especially if they're the younger ones and even the teenagers. They might not be telling us with words that they are being negatively affected. So we might have concerns about their well-being and how they're doing. So what the goal of this training is really, I really want to empower all of you parents of parents that are kids of any age, really doesn't matter. But I really want you to focus on what you can control. And this is going to go for everything when you come to healing, right? Focus on what you can control. And you want to make sure that you're protecting your children's well-being while modeling healthy boundaries during the holidays. So you want to control, protect, and actually model. So if you want them to have healthy boundaries, you should be also having healthy boundaries. So this is going to be a really great opportunity for you to work on some things for yourself. We can get ourselves sucked into some of the tension and stress and everything else, and then we might not be practicing what we preach or practicing what we want our kids to learn. And the best thing we can do for kids is model the types of behavior that we want them to pick up. Understanding the impact of conflict on kids. Okay, so why protecting our kids matters. And again, this is at any age. So kids pick up on emotional tension, even if it's unspoken. They can tell. They can tell if you guys are getting along. They can tell even if there's no yelling or screaming. Because again, I have a lot of people that will say to me, "Oh, I protected my kids." They have no idea that we're not getting along. They do. They're very well aware. They can see that you're not giving each other that pat on the back. They can see that you're not cuddly with each other. They can hear the way you speak to each other. They can tell that tension is there. Even if you're separated and you guys aren't talking to each other and you're both just angry at each other, they can see that too with how they speak to the other parent and then when they're not in the room. So they can tell how that is too. Another thing is exposure to conflict can actually lead to feelings of insecurity or confusion for children. So if they're noticing this conflict and really nobody's talking about it, so they're just sitting there by themselves in these feelings, then they're going to start to feel more insecure and be more confused. How do we know that the kids are stressed? And again, these are mostly if you're looking at under 20, and I want you to think of this for yourself. How can you tell when your kids are stressed? What are some things that you notice? Put some of those ideas in the comments. So let's come up with a list together. What are some of the signs that we notice our kids are stressed of any age? How about some changes in behavior? We might notice that they withdraw. Maybe they're more clingy. Maybe they act out. I had a client of mine where there was issues with a husband. He got himself in some trouble with the law, and their youngest started acting out. And it was directly correlated to this person getting in trouble with the law. So they were already stressed out because of the other issues with the ex, and now they have their child that's also acting out. So those kinds of things, and that might make us more frustrated, might trigger us. We might get more angry, we might get more easily lashing out. But that's a sign that those kids are stressed too. So the last thing kids need is for us to lash out more at them when they're acting out. So again, behavior, clinginess, and acting out. Some physical symptoms they might have is they might say they have a stomach ache. They might have trouble sleeping. As adults, we feel those things, but they might complain of those things, but not complain about the emotional things that they're feeling. Something that you could do, and this is that opportunity for you to write stuff down. Remember, I always tell you to bring a pad and paper to write stuff down. This is a good thing for you to do. Ask some really pointed questions. Ask them how they're feeling. How are you feeling? Are you worried about anything? Is there anything you want to talk about? Those might be some things that you could ask them. They might ask you questions like, why is dad upset? Or why do you look sad? This is them trying to have a conversation started. So telling them that they're wrong, dad's not upset, or that you're not sad, and completely trying to avoid any of these big conversations really just makes them think that they're not seeing things clearly and they think something's wrong with them. So really the big thing that's going to be throughout the theme throughout all of this is really, really communicating. Now, you don't have to go into details depending on what the age is. You know, you don't have to be like, well, you know, I'm mad at dad because dad cheated on me with his, I don't know, with his assistant, you know, his secretary. We don't need to tell them all of that stuff. But, you know, mommy and daddy are fighting right now, and I'm not very comfortable being around him. Okay, that's honest. Again, we have to be age appropriate, because if they're 30, that's going to be a different response than if they're 8. So think about something that would be a more positive way of answering any questions that a child might ask about what's going on. Because again, you can feel that tension in the air. And if we can feel it, the kids are super sensitive to all that kind of stuff. So when they ask those questions, don't dismiss them. Give them an answer that is appropriate. And I always say, if you think ahead of time of these potential questions that they might ask you, then you can be prepared, and it will be easier for you to give an answer that you feel comfortable with as well. You don't need to have a perfect holiday. I'll just give you permission right now. The holiday doesn't have to be perfect. But kids need emotional safety and reassurance from you. Somebody needs to be the adult, and somebody needs to make them feel safe. And again, this is parents across the board. Your job as a parent is to make them feel safe. It's not to lie to them. It's not to pretend, but let them know that they can be safe with you. You are the safe person for them. You are the adult. You're going to take care of things in an adult way, and you're going to show them and speak to them so that they understand what's going on. Does that make sense to everybody? You know, I think very often we try to protect kids from everything, but we're doing them a real disservice when we do that. We need to make sure that we're really openly communicating. All right, the next part is, you know, why are we worried about all of this? Well, a lot of us are feeling guilty. We're feeling guilty because we're saying to ourselves, you know, am I doing enough to protect them from all the tension? Am I ruining their holiday experience? Maybe we feel overwhelmed. We're juggling our own emotional exhaustion with a desire to create happy memories for everybody. And that's really hard because we feel one way, but we feel like we have to put on a mask to make everybody else happy. Maybe there's pressure of managing co-parenting dynamics or family expectations. So we didn't even talk about in the beginning of the co-parenting issue, having to trade off kids, you know, and have different Christmases, have different traditions than we've had before, which can lead us to feeling helpless because we have no choice. We're not in control of the things that happen at their new house, without your ex's new relationship or lack thereof, wherever they're at. We have to let go of that control. And so then that can lead to feeling really helpless because there's not much we can do. Worrying about things outside of your control, like your ex's behavior or family dynamics. You know, again, that's something that we're going to do. So it's normal to feel this way. It's normal. But you don't have to do everything perfectly to create a meaningful holiday for your kids. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, it's the memories, it's the experiences more than anything else. So what can you do? Well, some of these things I bet you're probably already doing. And I will tell you, I do have younger kids and I know that they love these things. And so again, you're probably doing them already. But bake cookies, build the gingerbread houses. In fact, this was actually a really cute idea. We got a box and we were able to make a gingerbread house out of a box. And then the kids were able to color the box. So instead of making a gingerbread house, that's just kind of, to me, that's kind of wasting the food, you know, because I don't know anybody that ever eats gingerbread houses. But instead of doing that, we just took a box and we, you know, got a box from a moving and storage place, and we made this cute little gingerbread house, and I put paper around it, and they're able to color it and draw on it. You know, doing those kinds of crafting types of holiday things together. Make holiday decorations together. Go for a drive and look at the holiday lights. We did that last week. We put on some Christmas music in the car, went for a ride around the neighborhood, and looked at the holiday lights. Kids loved it. Have a movie night with hot cocoa. Write letters to Santa or create gratitude lists for the season. If your kids aren't wanting to write letters, then what are you grateful for? Write it down. Have everybody write it down in the family. That'll also help you refocus on how, you know, the gratitude, the grateful things that we have in our lives, even when things are stressful and overwhelming. The other thing is to emphasize really quality over quantity. Acknowledge the small heartfelt moments that matter to the kids more than those big elaborate plans. Those moments with you, they want to spend time with you. And even if they're pretending like they don't, they really do. They want that connection. They want that interaction. So instead of making all these big elaborate plans, find things that you can do with the kids and then be present. Put those cell phones away. Make it so that that time that you have with them, that cell phone is put somewhere else. You're not going to get into a back and forth with the ex or soon to be ex. You're not going to get, start messaging your friend about how stressed out you are about this relationship. But you're going to put away the distractions and you're going to really fully be present for the experience that you're having with your family. Don't have all these other noises to get in the way. Your presence and attention means more than anything to your kids. They don't care about everything being perfect. They care about you being there. Does that make sense? Does this all make sense so far? And again, some of this you might be like, well, I know this already. And you maybe you do. But again, when you're overwhelmed and stressed out, sometimes it's hard to really think clearly. So it's good to have some specific tools and specific things that we can do. And then that's going to bring me into talking about minimizing the kids' exposure to conflict. I want you to plan for 10 situations ahead of time. And if you've watched the other trainings, we've talked about this. Dealing with difficult people. Prepare yourself ahead of time for these situations. So, maybe you avoid events or gatherings where you're anticipating that there's going to be conflict. So, and I said this, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but, if there's always an issue with Uncle John drinking too much and causing a fight with people, maybe you don't do that this year. Maybe, trying to go to your in-laws when you know that they're going to complain about something about you, maybe that's not what you do this year. Try to anticipate. And if you can avoid it, then avoid it. If you have to go, then be prepared with what you're going to talk about and how you're going to avoid people that are going to try to push your buttons. Another great thing that I love doing is prepare activities to keep your kids distracted. So, again, the younger kids, you might want to bring crafts. Again, even the older kids, you might want to bring crafts. Have something, a game, a movie, something for them to focus on. So that they're they've got something to look at, something to focus on. And then that could be your excuse. You want to go sit at the kids' table and help them do whatever the craft is, whatever the game is. That'll keep you from dealing with all the stuff that the other people are talking about or dealing with or whatever. So prepare little activities. I like to do that in general because it gets people to not talk about all the crazy things that are going on in the world. And instead they have to focus on the craft that they are creating. And this could be good. Literally having a craft could be good at any age. And even people that say they don't like crafts, put a craft in front of them and now all of a sudden they're doing crafts. So, that's something that you can do for yourself too. Limit the involvement of people that are going to cause stress or overwhelm. If you have to co-parent with someone, then really arrange it so that the communication is limited and have it so that it's an exposure where maybe it's a public place or something like that, where you don't have to go into their house and see all the ex's family and all that kind of stuff. Make it so that it works so that you don't have to interact as much or you limit that interaction. And if you haven't been told this yet by a lawyer, everything should be documented in your text messaging app. There is a parenting app. You should be using that. If you let the ex not use that, and you've been told that you need to, that's going over and negating a boundary. That has to be used in order to have everything completely, everything written down the way it should. So that way they can't misbehave. And then another one is really, create those clear boundaries. What are things that are appropriate to talk about in front of the children? What are things that maybe you take the children away from? Maybe letting your family know ahead of time, hey, I'm not talking about the divorce in front of the kids. So don't ask me if I'm dating. Don't ask me anything negative about my soon-to-be ex or my ex. Let people know ahead of time that you're not going to engage in those kinds of conversations. All right. Again, letting them know ahead of time where things can be stressful, letting them know will make it easier for you to speak up if they do bring it up anyway. And then, of course, if you're dealing with the ex and co-parenting, be prepared to walk away from things that are not comfortable. And, and again, in any situation, be prepared to walk away from things that you feel uncomfortable in. You don't have to stay anywhere where you don't feel safe. So if someone's attacking you, if you're made to feel uncomfortable, don't feel afraid to get up and move you or the kids, whatever needs to be done for everyone to be safe. You can't control every situation, but you can control how you respond. And you can also, to an extent, control what your kids experience, at least when you're around. If you're around your kids, then you can be aware of the situation and what's going on, and you can pay attention to who they're speaking with, what's, how they're interacting. So, you and you'll be teaching them some really good things by being able to be in control of yourself and your emotions as you go through this. So, that brings me to teaching by example. Show your kids that it's okay to say no to things. If it's overwhelming, say it. Let your kids know that you don't have to say yes to everybody and everything just to make everybody else happy. Make that people pleasing stop with you so that they don't learn those things. And I don't care how old your kids are, the sooner that you start sticking up for yourself, the sooner they start learning that they don't have to please everybody in order to feel loved. And that's a beautiful thing, because I literally have had clients that were in their 50s, 60s that had kids in their 30s, 40s that were learning about how to speak up for themselves and not be people pleasers based on their parents, their moms mostly, working with us and actually stepping into who they are and not feeling bad to say no to things. So, you don't know who else you're positively affecting by standing up for yourself. So teach by example. Use phrases like, and again, use this for the appropriate level of the age of your kids, but mommy needs some quiet time to recharge so that we can have fun later. I need a break. I need to take a nap. In order for me to be able to hang out later, I'm going to have to take a nap. So I need half an hour to recharge. It's okay to take a break when things feel like too much. Saying that out loud so that your kids also know that it's okay if they need a break, if they need to recharge. Maybe your kids are more introverted too, and to teach them to be able to stand up for themselves and be able to go give themselves a few minutes of a break by going and walking outside, or going and watching television by themselves for a little bit, or whatever they need. If they need to take a break, give them permission ahead of time and tell them that. Say, if you need a break or if something's going on, you can tell me, or you can go for a walk, or just tell me where you're going. Have those conversations. What was said before is limit interactions with individuals that might be toxic for your kids. Protect your kids, protect yourself. Redirect conversations and leave the ones that might escalate. This is what I said before. You don't have to stick around to things that are uncomfortable where you don't feel safe. So if things are starting to escalate, move away, leave. You don't have to apologize. And, help kids set boundaries. Empower them to express their needs and feelings in simple ways. I don't want to give a hug to Aunt Mary. Whatever things that you can do to empower them to start expressing their wants and needs in productive ways. The gift that you're giving them will help them in all the relationships that you have. When you model healthy boundaries, you teach your kids that it's okay to prioritize their emotional well-being too. So when you model it, they learn that they can do it too. So here's a question to ask yourself. What boundaries do you need to have for yourself going into the holidays? Are you going to buy less things, have more experiences, not go to that family's house that you normally go to, not bake all those cookies you said you were going to bake? Write down in the comments, what are some of the boundaries that you are going to have for yourself? And then maybe talk to your kids. What are some of the boundaries that you would like to have for yourself for this holiday? What are some of the things that you would like or don't want? Have those conversations. Explain to them what a boundary is. That could be a great conversation. Don't wait until the kid's 34, like I did, to learn it on their own. I didn't even know what the boundary was. Would have saved me years if I knew. So, these are all teaching opportunities. And if they can learn how to set boundaries and speak up for themselves because of this unhealthy relationship, then that's something positive that comes out of it. Like, yeah, it sucks they had to learn it from their mom or their dad or whomever, but at least they're learning how to speak up for themselves, and that will help follow them throughout their lifetime. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Make sure that you're validating your kids' feelings. Make sure that you're opening up, you're listening to them, and you're telling them that you will listen to whatever they have to say without judgment. You're not going to get defensive. You're not going to get angry at them for having those feelings. Remember, this needs to be their safe space. The rest of the world might not be safe. Other places might not be as safe as it is with you. So the more you model, the more you communicate, the more you're open with them, the more they feel safe, the less they'll feel judged, and the better they're going to feel. Have reassurance to them. Let them keep reminding them that how loved they are. It is, and remind them that they are not responsible for the adult issues. Mommy and daddy fighting is not because of you. Yeah, you don't have to be a perfect kid. It's okay. It's not because of you. We're fighting. There's issues with us. It's not your fault that there are issues between the adults. And be honest. Answer the questions in age appropriate ways without oversharing. Again, the younger kids sometimes growing up have big feelings, but that doesn't mean it's your fault. Those teenage kids, hey, mom and dad are just, we just don't get along well. And, again, if they're 20s, 30s, then that's a whole different conversation. But answer questions, don't hide things, but don't overshare. Give them the answer to the question that they're asking. So sometimes if you're not sure the question that they're asking, ask more questions to make sure that you're answering what they're actually looking for. Sometimes they'll ask a question, like my kids, again, are younger, but they'll ask me a question, and then I'll say, well, what do you mean by that? And then they'll reiterate it in a way, and I'm like, oh, okay, because I'm glad I didn't say XYZ, because they actually were asking B. So what did you mean by that? Or can you say that in a different way? And that way you can answer whatever questions they have. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And I know you probably hear this all the time, but self-care is actually also taking care of your kids. It's also taking care of your family. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So as you're worried about making the holidays perfect and buying the things and protecting them and doing all of this, make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And probably, I guess it was maybe 5 or 6 trainings ago, we talked about how self-care isn't just bubble baths and having a glass of wine, although that's fine. But practice, self-care is also saying no to things that you need to say no to. It's about giving yourself rest. It's about drinking your green smoothies, having your water, taking care of yourself, expressing your emotions. That's all self-care as well. So, practice that self-care for yourself. Get that support from your family and friends, or a coach or a professional, but get support from people so that you don't have to do this on your own or deal with this mental load all by yourself. And then, let go of perfection. Focus on the progress that you are making. You might not be exactly where you want to be this year, but next year you're going to look back and be like, wow, I'm in a totally different place than I was last year. It's okay if things don't go exactly as planned, but the movement is what's going to cause those big changes over time. And, celebrate the wins. Every week with our clients in the Brilliant Life Blueprint, we celebrate wins every single week. The small little wins over time create big wins. So celebrate your wins. Look at the joy that you've created. Enjoy those little moments that you have. I'll sit there and all of a sudden I hear my kids laughing, and it's just that moment, I savor it. Or we have a little joke, or something funny, something funny happens, or, whatever it is. Sometimes it's just watching them walk by and looking at those little tiny moments, and they feel, to me, I now see them as not just small. Those are all the beautiful moments that life is made of. And I like to just kind of absorb those little moments that we have. So where are those little moments that you can find throughout all of this to really, celebrate and have that gratitude and feel good, even though everything is stressful. I think about this all the time, is how lucky we are to just be alive and have this experience. So even though things aren't great, might not be great where they are now, you're breathing, you're here. Just that, you're able to have the experience that might not be perfect, but you're having the experience. That's a privilege. That's an amazing feeling. So sometimes you have to acknowledge the fact that you're breathing, that you're seeing, that you're experiencing this. And when you're experiencing things, life is not always, lollipops and rainbows. Sometimes there's some not so great things going on, but all of that is part of the experience. So look for those pieces of joy. Look for those things that you've created, no matter how small, and remind yourself of the gratitude that you have for those small moments. When you take time for yourself, you're going to show up as a better version of yourself for you and your kids. And so taking care of yourself means you're not, you're not filling from an empty cup, or you're not spilling out from an empty cup. You need to make sure that you're taking care of you in order to take care of everybody else you want to take care of. So have those boundaries, communicate, do all of those things. Was this helpful for you? Write in the comments if this was helpful. Comment helpful in the comments. And anything that stands out. If there's one thing that you can do, write down one boundary that you're going to have for yourself this year that maybe is a little bit different than what you've had before. And then maybe write down what's something that you're going to do differently with your kids. Is it going to be to communicate more? Is it going to create a new tradition? What is it going to be? So something that you learned, and then one boundary that you have that you're going to have for yourself, and one new thing that you're going to try with your kids at any age that they are. So try this out. It'll be something fun to try out no matter where you are in your journey. Protecting your kids isn't about eliminating every problem that you have. It's about really creating that foundation of love and safety and connection, and then teaching them how to deal with problems and conflicts when they arise. So it's not about perfection. It's about teaching them how to deal with things when they are not perfect, because that is a gift that most of us did not get. And if they can learn that now, sooner rather than later, then you're going to help them for the rest of their lives. And again, it might suck that it's with family or an ex, but it's still an important lesson either way. So if you can teach them how to deal with problems, it's going to help them throughout. So, if there's, like I said, share one thing that you can do differently, have that boundary, something that you learned. I'd love to hear it. And then, of course, if you are looking for any other types of support, you can always send me a private message and we can share some of the resources that we have. And if you missed it in the beginning, I did say if you did not yet grab your holiday stress survival guide, please send me a DM and I will make sure that I send that over to you. It's totally free. There's the other videos that we've done in this series in there as well, so you can grab that. Just send me a DM. You can also comment it here, but I know not everybody sees the responses when I send a reply to the DMs, to the comments, I'm sorry. So if you send me a DM, I definitely can get you out that stress survival guide. And again, if there's any extra help that you need, make sure you reach out, because you don't have to do this alone. Are there any questions or any final thoughts before we say goodbye? I always love coming on. I always love sharing this. I think this is so important. And again, this is the holiday season where people are super stressed at this time of year. People are worried about so many different things, but look at the things that you can control versus the things that you can't, and let go of the things that you can't. And prepare yourself for the things that might be a little bit more difficult, because you can prepare yourself and you can create new memories and make this as the least amount of stressful as you possibly can. You have the power to do that. So on that note, if there's no other questions or no other comments, I really appreciate all of you coming and hanging out with us today. Always love spending time with you. If you need me for anything, send me a DM. I always love to chat, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody. Have a great night.